So this wasn't supposed to be episode 1 in our new series, and the truth be known, we weren't really quite sure whether or not we were going to share it or not. RV living can bring up a lot.
We just got back from an incredible trip to Colorado. It was beautiful, but the truth is, behind the scenes, we were actually dealing with relationship problems. That's why we're about 4 weeks behind in sharing a video. But we want to be real with you.
Yeah, who would have known that like living tiny and living big at the same time would bring such issues, you know? Who would have known that?
So instead of pretending like it's all sunshine and sunsets every day, we're going to start here. This was going to be episode 5 in our series, but this is what RV life looks like sometimes.
So this is episode 1 of our new series, So You Moved Into an RV, Now What? And today it's not about gear and gadgets.
It's about the emotional side of this life, the stuff that nobody really tells you that goes on behind the scenes. We hope that sharing this episode with you makes you feel less alone in those times where you're having these arguments or you're having these fights, and it inspires you to go out and chase your adventure even when life gets hard.
We're all normal.
This lifestyle we live gets romanticized. You see the highlights, the epic views, the once-in-a-lifetime experiences we never would have had if we weren't living this way. And yeah, those moments are real. We just got back from Colorado, and it was breathtaking. But here's the thing that no one tells you when you move into an RV. What happens after the views fade? After the reels stop rolling? So you moved into an RV. Now what? You see the adventures, the places, the freedom. But the truth is, that's only part of the story. Because living this life full-time brings challenges that most people never see, especially when it comes to your relationship. We'll just talk.
So we're willing to answer a series of 10 questions pertaining to...
We were going to talk about relationship in episode 5, but it just so happens that then we actually were going through a rough patch. It's not an easy episode to film regardless, because none of us want to talk about fighting, right? But it is something that people wonder when they move into an RV.
Yeah.
And so we are actually going to answer 10 questions separately.
Individually.
And we're going to share that with you.
All right, come along. Can we do that?
Yeah.
All right, so what's been the hardest part of RV life for our relationship? When I think about it, it's to me, the hardest part of it has been, it's a 2-part question. When I think about it, it's a 2-part question. One of the hard parts for it is the financial situations of full-time RV life on the move. It is a little bit more pricey than what I think people would think on the move. If you're on the move all the time, it's kind of hard. But the financial aspects of doing it, I'm of my age, I start to worry about how long I'm really going to be able to continue to do it and how the funding is going to take effect, for it. And I can be honest with you that sometimes I don't take my partner in consideration really when it boils down to how my feelings affect how it affects our relationship because of my stress over the financial parts of full-time RVing. I think the other part of that, the second part of that question would actually be that it's not having understanding of what your partner's feelings are when it comes down to RV life and maybe what they want to do versus what you want to do. If you're a giver, sometimes you're doing things that you truly would rather, you want to give to people, but to your partner, but you don't want to. You end up frustrating yourself because you're not really getting to do the things that that you want to do. So, what's been the hardest part of RV life? I would say that probably it's the financial situations of RV life and not having an understanding of what's going on with your partner at that period of time.
What's been the hardest part of RV life for our relationship? I answered this one earlier, and if we don't use it because of the microphone, basically what I was saying was that I don't really feel like RV life itself has played a role in our relationship or being harder or not harder. I think that, yes, in a sense, when you are in a house and then you move into an RV, things are a lot smaller, but, you know, I guess there's that. You go from living in a house where you have several rooms that you can run away to, and you can be like mad at each other for days in separate rooms and still live life, kind of. Whereas in an RV, especially ours that has no rooms besides the bathroom, you don't have that, so you have to figure things out quickly. So I guess some would say that would be the hardest part. I did look it up recently, and you know, we over time have evolved into these bigger and bigger and bigger houses. I don't know that we were necessarily meant to live in such big houses and be away from each other, but you know, that's just the way that we've done here. And you know, you have to face your problems head on, and that's hard. So I guess that would be my answer, would be you don't have a choice. You have to figure it out. You have to confront it and get over it and move on with each other.
You know, so the question is how do you handle arguments when there's no place to go? I think I can only speak for myself and how I handle arguments when there's no place to go, and I can be honest and tell you I don't always handle them the correct way by any means, but I do know that there's always a place that you can go. Whether you have to go to one end of your camper and they go to the other end of the camper, or you go sit in your car, you go sit at your picnic table, you go for a walk in the woods. That's really left up to the individual and how those things can be handled. You know who you are as a person and what works best for you to calm down, to simmer down, to make things a little bit more peaceful. As for me, how I handle things, usually, like I said earlier, I don't always handle them in the best way. I'm a human being. I am very good about getting into my car, driving, trying to calm myself down a little bit until I can go back and rediscuss the matter at hand. But everybody's going to handle that a little bit differently. I do believe that there's always a place that you can go. There are places that you can, like I said, even if you just go outside and sit at your picnic table, go outside, light a bonfire, you know, go for a walk, go out in the woods, man. I mean, forest is for rest. It might be a great place that you could go out and you know, kind of calm down for a minute. It's arguments are going to happen with your partner, your spouse, whether you're in a big space or a little space, and it is according to how much time you spend together. Michelle and I, we spend basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week together. We do everything together, and so I mean, from working together to driving to work together and living in a small space. So we do have our fair share of, you know, arguments, and you know, the best thing that I can do at that moment is for us to kind of separate and go one direction, one the other. Go to the tail end of your camper, go to the other tail end of your camper, go outside. There's things you can do. I mean, you know, maybe sometimes the biggest argument you might have is who's the lucky person that gets to go outside. Maybe both of you go outside and one goes one way and one goes the other, but it's the best way to diffuse the situation. I hope that kind of helps out anybody's question, you know, that they might have about that. Anyway, that's the answer to what do you do when you get in an argument, you know, where there's no place to go. I mean, that's what we do.
How do you handle arguments when there's nowhere to go? So we both, this is probably going to end up being funny when we watch them back to back, but basically we love to be outside anyway, both of us do, and that's kind of how we handle it. Sometimes I go for a walk. Sometimes I go outside. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes Patrick sits in his truck or goes and works on things, or that's what we do. That's how we handle it. We are by no means perfect when we argue. That's something we're working on, hence why we're 4 weeks late on a video. We're trying to work on us just like everybody else. So we're figuring it out. And I think that's what you have to do when you live in a smaller space. You don't have any choice but to figure it out or move on.
All right, so what surprised me the most about how RV living has affected our relationship? So you can spend so much time, with one human being in a small space, and to realize that two people still care about each other enough to keep pushing forward in life. It's just amazing to me. You hear it all the time. People are always talking about, it's like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't live in a small space, with my partner, my husband, my wife, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, whatever it might be. I'd kill them if I lived in a small space. And it's crazy is that I think that sometimes when you are living in small spaces together, you actually, you start to crave the idea of being with somebody else in your small space. Michelle and I spend so much time together, not only just on our way to work, but working in a small space together. We work in the same room, to driving back home and living in a small space. And it is fascinating me that two people can still keep pushing forward to make a relationship happen. It's definitely not always easy, but I do believe it is a lot of what you put into it. So what surprises me the most about how RV life has affected us in our relationship, man, is that two people can actually still keep pushing forward after, time spent together, so much time spent together. I do believe that it does make you grow stronger. I do believe that it makes you have more care for people. Like I said, I'm not the best at it. I still have work to do.
What surprised me about how this lifestyle affected us as a couple? I would say what surprised me the most in this situation, in this lifestyle, is that it immediately teaches you patience. You have to be more patient with each other. We have to be more patient with each other. And I've seen both of us grow in that area, especially Patrick. He won't hesitate probably to tell you that patience isn't one of his strong points, and I've seen him grow a lot in that. I do see him trying when it comes down to that, and that makes it where, we, like any relationship, where you want to keep moving forward, and it's not going to be perfect. We are human just like everybody else, and we're going to argue. And if anybody tells you that they don't, then I want to know who they're talking to and how they got to where they are, and drink whatever Kool-Aid they're drinking from.
What one thing have you learned or unlearned to make this relationship work? So for me, learning it's something that I'm going to have to work on. And I think the biggest part of it for me, learning, is trying to have patience. I'm not the best at it. I try. If I have frustrations about it, I'm sure that it can be read that I'm frustrated about it. But the thing that I've had to learn is to be patient and not to always be so boisterous about what I'm not happy with in that situation. The examples, if the dog's in the way or something like that, or we've talked about it before. You usually have to, in a small space, you usually have to move something to get to something, and All of it can pile up and you can be frustrated about it. So the biggest thing that I've had to learn is patience. I don't even know that I've seriously even learned patience yet. I think that I am working on patience. And maybe that's just part of always just trying to grow. Things that I've had to unlearn is basically having the feeling that I'm not always right. I'm not always the one that has the right answer. Once again, still not really good at that. I am a work in progress when it comes to learning and unlearning things to make this relationship work in a small space for, RV life.
What's one thing I've had to learn or unlearn to make this work? Oh, wow. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's so many things on a daily basis that I'm learning or unlearning. That's a good one. You got me on that one. I think at the end of the day, just letting it go. There are times where things can annoy you or annoy me, and picking my battles at the end of the day. Just letting things go in general. I'm a fairly positive person, and so when anybody around me is not positive, I tend to shut down, and I've had to learn to be better at communicating about that and just realizing that not everybody is always going to look at the bright side, and I don't always look at the bright side, of course, but just giving grace in that area. I hope that came out right.
So the question is how do you give each other space when there is no space? And I'm not really sure about this question. I think it goes back to, number two, and, how do you handle things when, there's no place to go and you're in an argument? I think that you can always find space, and you have to find whatever space works best for you. For me, myself, I can go outside. I can get in my car. I can take a walk. Rainy days, take a walk. It's fun to play in the rain. So I think that there's plenty of space, even though that you are living in a small space, doesn't mean that you don't have all the outdoor space. If you're not an outdoor person, then giving each other space is you're probably going to have to go to one end of your camper and they're going to go to the other, or space can be considered the idea of like, maybe your partner's at one end of the camper and you just sit down at another spot in that same area and just read a book. Space can be considered being in the same area, but yet not being involved in the same situation can be considered a space, I guess, as well. For me, how I usually handle it, I go outside. We can take a walk, we can get in our car, we can drive. There's always something that probably needs to be done. Go outside, straighten up your storage lockers, go clean your bathroom. There's things that you can do to give each other room. Even if you're not an outdoor person, go find a shade tree, go sit up underneath it and just, feel it out and see how that works best for you. But I think there's always a place that you can find space.
How do we give each other space when there is no space? Like I said before, and I'm sure Patrick probably said this in his questions, we go outside. You don't have a choice. We are together a lot in this lifestyle, and I don't know that everybody is. We happen to also work in Memphis 3 days a week together in a small room together, so we are riding into work, working. We live in a small space. Most of our hobbies we do together, so there's not a lot of space there. So learning to give each other space when you need it, when we need it is just going outside, or if he goes outside, sometimes I'll just stay inside and I'll go in and take a little bath in our tiny bathtub. That's a lot of times what I do for space. That's it. That's what we've got. We're trying to be better in that area of giving each other more space, and I think it's good.
All right, so the question is when do you guys feel the closest to each other when you're out on the road? I can only speak for myself, but for me, I think that the closest that I feel with Michelle is when we're doing the thing that we actually started out to do, and that is actually to be out on the road, traveling. We did not move into a travel trailer so that we could stay in one location all the time. And even though that we stay in campgrounds and we are full-time campers, we stay in campgrounds, maybe 14 days in one, and then we might move to a whole nother park and stay there for 14 days. It is truthfully when we are traveling and going different locations, not just staying in one space. You live in a small space and you survive in the idea of being out, having other things to do. And when you have done everything in that location, you're ready to move on and go to something else. And I think there's a certain amount of closeness that becomes between Michelle and I when we are actually out doing the things that we started out to do, and that was to travel. If we were going to stay put and live in a camper and stay in one spot, we probably would have just stayed in a house. The whole mission was to actually get out and about and see things, to travel. And so as for other people, I think that you finding what your closeness is with your partner is something that you're going to have to sit down and probably soul search and figure out. I mean, you probably know already when you're listening to me that you probably already know what makes you feel close to your partner, and you probably already know that when you do those things, whether it's living full-time, I mean, you might want to live full-time in a travel trailer and just stay put in one spot and travel only a couple of times a year or whatever it might be. And if that provides you closeness with your partner, then I think that it's probably something that's very suitable for you. But for me, I do believe my closeness comes with Michelle when we are actually doing the thing that we set out to do 4 years ago, and that was travel around, to go see different things. It doesn't always have to be some major trip. It is to go see something different, as many times in a year as you possibly can. So, I mean, the best answer that I have for that is, when do you guys feel the closest, to each other? For me, it's when we're traveling around with each other, doing the things that we set out to do.
When do I feel the closest to Patrick on the road? When we're on the road. When we're going on trips, it's a little easier to feel closer. I think everybody feels that way. We oddly also have arguments when we're going beautiful places. Even Colorado, we're having arguments. These last 4 weeks have been tough for us, and I'm proud that we're at a point now, after talking, that we can be honest with you guys about that, and honest with each other, and just, I don't know, I'm really excited in that sense that, I mean, you can go from, not sharing too much, but what we've went through in the last 4 weeks, and get to a point where you can have a video like this and be real with you guys. That, to me, is a major plus in our relationship, that we are willing to share it with you, and that we're both comfortable enough with each other at the moment that we can do this together. And I'm excited about that in that sense. This is not an easy video to film, but in a sense it is one of the easiest ones we've filmed, because it's just real and raw and what we've been going through. So back to the question, I feel the closest to Patrick when we're on the road, because a lot of times we don't plan where we're going, and so we kind of just play off of each other and where we're going to go and what we're going to do, and that's just a lot of fun. And I would say the other time would be what we call blankie time. That's at the end of the day where you get home from work or you get home from a project or whatever you're doing, and you go inside and you're at home. Even though we're in a camper, to us it's home. And that's when I feel the closest to him. We get up in the bed and we watch our YouTube shows, and I don't know, that's pretty nice. It's home, and I really like it a lot, and that's one of my favorite times of the day. Blankie time.
So what advice could I give to somebody that is considering living full-time in an RV? I don't know that I'm the best person to give advice truly on much of anything, but I can give you advice for 4 years worth of experiences living in an RV. Is if it's something that you sincerely think that you want to do and you're really seriously considering about it, is just start heading in that direction. Start getting rid of things. Start putting things in storage buildings. Start listing your house for sale. Start looking at your lease if you're leasing a house, and just try to find out what it actually takes. Start looking at RVs to find out what is suitable for your budget. Are you still willing to work while you live full-time in an RV where you have to go to a brick and mortar building, or is it something that you could work remote from? I mean, those are all those things to take in consideration. Is you do have to have income of some sort while you're out doing this. Now, if you're independently wealthy, you still are spending income on doing it. But I do think that is probably, one of the things that I could say is just, don't be afraid of doing it. It's not like if you did this and you put your things in a storage building that you could not turn around and go back to a house at some time. There is an exit strategy that goes into leaving your house, your place that you've been dwelling, and there is a entrance into what you're going to, and you know what's suitable for your life. So basically, you need to look at your job situation. How you're going to have income to do it. You need to find you a travel trailer situation that suits best for your needs, whether it's an RV pulling a car or it's a travel trailer that you pull with a truck or whatever. And then, if you're not really sure about it, put your stuff in a storage building, and you can always come back and downsize. I think a lot of people really do. They'll stick things in storage buildings. I mean, we've been doing it now for 4 years. We still have a 10 by 10 storage building that's housing some things. We have things that we're storing inside this right here. And, eventually at some point we are going to downsize all of these things. But I guess the best advice that I could give to somebody that's thinking about doing is truthfully, don't be scared of doing it. It is not the end of the world by moving into something that is mobile. And then if you decide you want to go back, if it helps you out a little bit, you can always go back to it. So I hope that answers that question. Like I said, I'm not expert on a lot of things.
What advice would I give other couples considering RV life? Do it. At the end of the day, this lifestyle is amazing. And yes, you're still going to fight. You are still going to argue. Those things that annoy you when you live in a house are going to annoy you even more probably in an RV. And if you can learn to not let those small things bother you, at the end of the day, there's people who are going through worse. I think we get to see that a lot as hairstylists right now, in people that sit in our chair, and we hear stories after stories of things that our people are going through, and our small arguments, our silly squabbles or whatever, are not near what a lot of people go through. We have clients who have cancer. We have clients who have lost family members. We hear so many stories on a daily basis that what does it really matter at the end of the day, all we can do is keep working on ourselves. So I guess my advice would be to have patience, and communication is number one. We're working on that still. So communication and patience. And just enjoy life. Have fun. Be in the moment. I always like to say the rear view mirror is smaller than the windshield for a reason. Just not looking back, but always looking forward and enjoying the moment that you're in.
All right, so here's the question of the day. What is one thing that the person that you live with in a tiny space does that drives you crazy? I almost feel like I'm gonna get in trouble, so I don't even know if I should answer that question, and y'all don't want to see me get in trouble, I'm sure. I think we all have our things that we feel need to be a certain way when we live in a tiny space. The best advice I can truly give, and like I said earlier, I'm not really the person that's probably going to be giving a lot of advice, but the best advice that I could probably give is that you do have to weigh out the idea: do you love the person more than the issue? You know, I still on a daily basis have to look at that situation when I get irritated. I'm a little bit like, I feel like most things have a place. They need to be put into place. I feel like I try to think ahead, you know, like 1 or 2 steps ahead when I'm doing things and things like that. So I love Michelle enough that any issues that I have with her that pertain to us living in a small space is not really such a big issue. It's really not. Like I said, we all have our things, you know, that we like to have a certain way that we're particular about. I hear people complaining about whiskers in sinks and things, and you know, and I guess that you know, I could find things to complain about, you know, as well, like we all could. But I do believe that if you have those issues in a tiny space, you're probably going to have those issues with that person in a bigger space. Whether it's, I got 20 pairs of shoes sitting out, you know, 20 pairs of shoes in a tiny space and 20 pairs of shoes, you know, in a big space, you're going to have issues with them. So look at the idea of, like, you know, is the issue more important than the love that I have for that person? I guess that's the best answer that I really have.
What's one thing that Patrick does that drives me crazy in a tiny space? I've said this before, but my biggest pet peeve, and the first thing that comes to mind, as weird as it is, and there's probably other things, who knows, but my biggest pet peeve probably is when he says the word move to the dogs all the time. You know, the dogs are going to be under our feet, and I'm a little different, where I'm like, excuse me, oh, I'm sorry, am I in your way? Even to the dogs, which is silly, but that's just kind of how I am. So sometimes, especially if there's tense moments and you're not really sure that he's talking to the dogs, that gets a little frustrating. So that's probably my biggest pet peeve, I guess, or not my biggest, but maybe the first one that comes to mind. And I know that's silly, but it is what it is.
So the question is, it's like living in an RV, living this lifestyle, how has it made your relationships stronger? Man, I'm hanging out with my best friend, even though that we fight with each other and we argue with each other, and sometimes we need a little space from each other. I'm hanging out with my best friend, and I think that our relationship becomes stronger when we actually do get to go on trips together and hang out and do the things that we share, you know, together, you know, experiences together. Sometimes I think that maybe our relationship might be a little bit different than some, just based off the idea that, you know, Michelle and I, we live in a small space together. We drive to work together. We work in a small space together. And, you know, we drive back home and we sleep together in the same bed. So, you know, it might be different than some other people's relationship that just live in a small space together. Sorry about this noise that's fixing to happen right here. But I don't know. I think our relationship is probably stronger today than what it was, you know, in a week ago. We just come off a great trip, and we hope to actually get to start traveling a little bit more on bigger trips and make ways to go do different things. So, I mean, how do I feel like it's made our relationship stronger? I feel like it's made it stronger just because we're getting to spend so much time together. We have a lot of work to do as far as having this relationship, you know, be as strong as probably what it needs to be. All relationships are challenging at times, and it is what you make it out to be. But you know, I always hope for the best between us, and I hope that, you know, this answers the questions as far as how do I feel like it's made it stronger? I mean, it's made it stronger because we spend so much time together, enjoying each other's time. But sometimes it requires making a trip, you know, really for that to happen. And hopefully we'll just get to keep on traveling, you know, and get to spend more time together. Still need work to do, but we're working on it.
How has this lifestyle made your relationship stronger? I think I answered that a little bit earlier, just in the sense that because we're in a small space, we have to figure things out. And yeah, sometimes you have a really rough patch that lasts several weeks, and you have hard conversations, and you just try to keep moving forward. And I think that because we're in this small space, because we get to go places and see the things that we see, and we don't always yet. We have said already, I don't know if it'll be in this video or not, but you know, we're actually trying to figure out a way where we can go and be stationed in other places. So that's, being here has made us have to be stronger with each other and figure things out, and figure out, is it worth working for, you know? And I think that we would both say that we are giving it our all, and that's all we can do in any relationship. Do I ever think about quitting RV life because of the relationship challenges? Absolutely not. This lifestyle is amazing. It has its ups and downs, but at the end of the day, we wouldn't have seen what we saw in Colorado last week or a couple weeks ago if we didn't live this lifestyle. We wouldn't get to have gone the places that we go, and we wouldn't have the future that we're looking forward to at the moment if we didn't live in this camper. So I absolutely don't look at quitting RV life ever, to be honest. I don't know how Patrick would have answered his, but I know for me, like, I don't plan on stopping. I love this lifestyle, and we both, when we joke about like buying property or like having a home in one spot, get a little bit of anxiety about it. So no, I don't think about quitting it at all because of relationships. I think that no matter what, we're going to keep going.
All right, so the last question of the day is do I ever think about quitting RV life because of relationship challenges? And I can answer that with the quickness is no. Relationship challenges, Michelle and I, we have our own issues. We do, and we are like other human beings. We fight and we argue, and sometimes we say things that we truly don't mean. And nobody ever feels good about it, you know, after the fact. But relationship challenges are not so bad that it ever makes me stop and think like we should just stop doing this, you know. We moved into a travel trailer to travel, and we're traveling, and I have never once thought about, man, I'm gonna quit this and go back to a house, and just give it up. I hope that the future holds that Michelle and I can do this, you know, until we just can't do it anymore. But there is no way that I feel like that we have challenges enough that makes us where we're just going to quit doing this. And I hope that all of the questions that I've answered today, I know that some of them seem pretty diplomatic, you know, when we talk about things, but they are truly how I feel. And I can't really truly see doing this with anybody else, and I truly wouldn't want to do it with anybody else. So I hope that the 10 questions that I've answered today have given somebody some insight on the life that we have, you know, together living full-time in an RV in tiny spaces. Like I said earlier, we do argue with each other, and we do have to find space to go to when we do argue with each other. And I don't really know
that I don't even think that it has anything to do with tiny spaces. I really don't. I mean, I think a lot of times people are worried about the idea that, we're going to move into a tiny space together and we're going to argue with each other. I can tell you this, if you're in a bad relationship right now and you think moving into a tiny space is going to make your relationship better, I'm going to guess that it might put more hardship on your relationship to be in a tiny space together. If you're not an outdoor person and you live in a tiny space together and you don't have a good relationship, it might make things harder for you. I don't really know. You know your relationship better than we do. But I do hope that the 10 questions that I answered today give some kind of insight. If you have any thoughts or questions that you might ask, feel free to leave them in the comments and just let us know what you feel about living in tiny spaces and how it's affected your life living in a tiny space with someone. I truthfully don't even care if it's in a travel trailer or RV. I mean, there's all different kind of tiny spaces. You can live in a tent and kind of go from there. But I do hope that information that I gave today is of some kind of value to somebody. If you're scared about moving into a tiny space, just evaluate your relationship with your human being. Michelle Taylor, I love you.
That was really sweet. I love you too. We started to record our responses to our questions earlier and the phone didn't pick it up. And so we just had a private time listening to each other's answers. And, we're really excited for what our relationship has to hold going forward. We, did have a really tough couple of weeks, but we're excited about where we're at right now. And at the moment, we're going on a date, getting ready to go to dinner. We just wanted to say thank you for coming along with us on this journey about relationships. It's not the easiest video to film, but we thought it was important to share it with you. Stay tuned for next week when we take you back to our first weeks living in our travel trailer 4 years ago.
So you moved into an RV.
Now what? It's going to be a fun series to film, and we will be back next week. We'll see you there.
Bye.
Bye. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe.
Yeah, put it in the comments below if you have any questions, any ideas. This is Chase Your Adventure, because life is too short to stay apart.
Say see ya to what's holding you back. That was so good.